Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to go over the things they don't tell you, kind of the negatives about living in South Dakota. Hey guys, what's going on? Hey, my name is Christian Morrison. I'm a real estate agent here in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And just wanted to go over some things that a lot of people that are moving out here, we have a ton of people moving to the Black Hills, to South Dakota in general right now, that, you know, they don't know a lot of things about it because they've lived in cities, they lived in bigger areas, things like that. And I just want to go over some common things that people don't know about, some things you might want to be aware of before you move out to South Dakota. Now, the very first thing is, guys, it can be very rural in certain areas. And, you know, we do have two big cities in South Dakota. And of course, there's other small cities around it. But the two big cities are the Rapid City and Sioux Falls. And Sioux Falls on the east side of the state. Rapid City is on the west side of the state. I live in Rapid City. And I work all of the basically western part of South Dakota is where I work. So that's kind of what I'm going to be more apt to. But I did live in Sioux Falls for years, so I can talk on that a little bit too. But the things that people don't realize about western South Dakota in particular, and the east side as well, but it can be very rural in certain areas. So people will say, they call me and they say, hey, I want to go and I want to live out. I want to be outside of town. I want to be, you know, in the mountains, in the hills, want to have property, that type of thing. And kind of the problem with that is sometimes you can be, you know, 25 minutes to an hour away from any kind of store. You know, it could be 30-minute drive each way to go to the grocery store or gas station or whatever. And so not that that's a bad thing, that might be what you want, but I don't think a lot of people plan on that. So that could be one of the big negatives of it. You know, you got 30 minutes each way, it's an hour to go get groceries, hour to go get gas, whatever. You need to go grab something quick. And I think a lot of people that are moving here from bigger cities are used to having quicker amenities, you know, closer to their house, that type of thing. Another thing with being out in those rural areas, especially if you're like a remote worker, you work from home, that type of thing, is two things really. It can be really bad cell service, sometimes zero cell service. You can get like I forget what they're called, but like a cell phone service amplifier. If you're in that world, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm probably saying it wrong. But anyways, they can amplify your cell service, and you can probably get some off of that. But a lot of times there's no cell service outside of the cities. And another thing is internet. Internet can be either non-existent or you have to get satellite internet, and it's horrible, slow, and really doesn't work for people who work remotely. So that's another thing to think about when you're out that far in the hills or in a rural area anywhere in South Dakota. That's kind of the case most of the time, bad cell service and no internet. So something else that people always ask me about and tell me about when they come here, like, I want to move to South Dakota, I want to get property, and I want to have no rules, you know, no laws. I just want to be able to do whatever I want out there. I want no covenants, right? And that's fine and all. That's a good thing to want. The only problem with that is if you have no covenants, no rules on your property, most likely there's going to be other properties close to there, unless you're buying like hundreds of acres or something, then maybe it won't be. But let's just say there's properties close to you, people own properties close to you. If that's the case, they also have no rules. And not everybody's going to live their life the same way you do, right? So a lot of times you'll have this very nice house. You'll have like $1 million house sitting there, beautiful property. Next door to them is their neighbor who also has no rules, but they have 650 junk cars, you know, a bunch of trailers, and it just looks like crap, and there's stuff everywhere. So a lot of people that want covenants, I don't think, take that into account. So that's something to think about. If there's no rules, that means there's no rules for everybody, okay? And if that's the way you roll, that's totally fine. I just more so want to put it out there for people, because a lot of people will like, I don't want covenants, I don't want rules, blah, 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 which is, like I said, that's fine, but just something to think about with that. Another little thing I want to touch on the properties out, the big properties, if you have a lot of acreage, that type of thing out in the hills. A lot of times, one thing you really want to look out for, and if you come here and you use me as your agent, I can walk you through this, or if you're whoever you're using as an agent, just make sure they are versed on easements and know how to look to make sure it's a legal easement, check if it's a legal easement, that type of thing. It's an issue I run into a lot with bigger pieces of properties. Either one thing, and you have an easement to get to a piece of your property through someone else's property, you need to make sure that easement's legal. Or two, a lot of times you'll have road access on your property, so someone else can drive onto your property to their property. And a lot of times they are legal, but sometimes they're not, and people have just been using them. And maybe that's how the people who owned the property you're buying before got access to it. You just need to make sure all those are legal and on the up and up. in those type of scenarios. So another thing, guys, with living out is the winters. People don't take this into account, I don't think. In Rapid City, we really don't get that much snow. We only get about 36 inches a year. But in the hills, as soon as you get out of Rapid City, Sioux Falls actually gets a lot more snow. I don't know exactly how much, but I want to say they get like 50 or 60 inches a year. But in Rapid City, we get 36. So if you get into the hills, just about 30-minute drive from Rapid City, you jump from 36 to 106 inches a year. So with that being said, you live in these areas, and I say it's 30 minutes to town and back, right? Or to town and then 30 minutes back. If you're out there in the winter, a couple things. One, you're going to need a plow of some sort to get out of your driveway and sometimes to even get off your road to the main roads, because if you're on a dirt road or something like that, most of the time they're not plowed at all unless you have some kind of road association, which happens sometimes. But you want to plan on having a plow. You also want to plan on, you get dumped on with snow. So instead of taking 30 minutes to get to town, it might take an hour and a half, depending on how much snow there is, how slow you have to drive, that type of thing. And that coupled with having no cell service, if you get stuck in a ditch or whatever, you better be ready to walk, right? I'm kind of joking, but I've had it happen to people before. So I've actually had it happen to myself before too. So anyways, the winters can be brutal up in the hills a little bit. You get too far in there, 100 plus inches a year of snow, maybe even more, and then you got to plow to get it out or whatever. And maybe you like that kind of stuff. If you like that kind of stuff, awesome, go for it. It's not a big deal. I just want to make people aware that aren't used to that, or they got this idea of being out in the hills. Sometimes, guys, there's properties that you can only get to by snowmobile in the winter. The reason is because some of those roads you aren't allowed to plow up because there's snowmobile tracks and things like that. And a lot of times, obviously if you were working with me or a good agent, they would walk you through those properties and stuff and tell you, hey, you can only go by snowmobile, which is kind of cool to me. Maybe if it's a guest cabin, not a big deal. It's kind of a fun way to get there in and out. But anyways, that can definitely be the case with certain properties here. Now, obviously, if you're living in the cities here, things like that, it's totally different. You get all the amenities, the roads get cleared fast, and you can get in and out of places easy. It's not a big commute to anywhere. But that's the cities. If you get in these rural areas, that is not that way at all. Now, guys, very last thing I want to touch on. I've had a lot of people ask me about this kind of stuff. Hey, are people, people upset that people are moving to the area? Do they want people to move there? Do they not want people to? How are the locals acting about it? That type of thing. And honestly, most of the locals are fine with people moving here. They like new people moving here. A lot of times, though, in these rural areas, what they want is they want you to come there and keep it the way it is. That's the one thing I hear complaints about. Don't come to our area and change it. Come to our area and keep it the way it is. The reason you want it to be there is because it is the way it is. So they want you to keep it that way, if that makes sense. So that's the one thing I hear from people is just if you're coming here, keep it the way it is. Don't try to change everything, which makes sense, especially if you're from the area, you've lived in there your whole life, you want it to stay how it is. So anyways, guys, that is the last thing I wanted to touch on. Thanks for watching this video. If you got any questions, if you're moving here, you want to chat about some houses, you want to look at some places, you have more questions for me, call me, text me, email me, write me an old-fashioned letter if you're feeling that cool, or hit me in any of the social media platforms. I'm happy to help. And if you have any suggestions, you have some video topics you want me to hit, drop those in the comments below. I do read every comment, and I will either respond to those or get a video out for those. So thanks so much for watching again, guys. See you next time.